Hey, welcome back to Lessons with Legends. I'm glad to have you back. And as always, we're dropping some pretty cool and very informative information weekly for you. Sometimes it's just me, and sometimes we have a bunch of wonderful legends scheduled out. And um, it has been a journey. If you guys have not gone back and listened to some of the older podcasts that I've done, do so. There's a variety of health topics that we've talked about, and a variety of things. You know, this was designed predominantly to help doctors and natural health care practitioners get exposed to legends of natural practice, which is essentially some alternative therapies. And it was interesting the other day, I had somebody reach out to me and says, Dr. Todd, you are, I've always known you to be a little bit more progressive and, uh, um, and, and maybe, just maybe, you would know what this is. And this person was needing some healing because they had had some surgery and some stuff was not going well. And she goes, "There's my doctor wants me to get IV ozone." And I did chuckle to myself. I'm like, "Yes, we've actually recommended it for you in the past, and also we've been doing it for over 3 years." It's like, "Oh wow, wonderful!" And then, of course, how much is it? What's it going to take? All those concepts. So, I bring that up because a lot of these alternative therapies. People don't know about it. Even in my profession as a chiropractor, they don't know about it. It's like, what is that? What is ozone in the blood? So we've done some podcasts. We've had Dr. Cochran on. He was a naturopath. Dr. West on, a phenomenal naturopath chiropractor, and talking about major autohuman therapy, how to get the body back up to speed, and how to nutrify and oxygenate the body. Dr. Frank Schallenberger is I call him the godfather of ozone and oxygenating the body. He would often say that a body in an optimum oxygen state is a body free of disease, and it is truly that way. We just brought in a new technique to be able to, and I want to expose doctors to this, and then we're going to talk about green pastures and still waters. But we brought in a new machine through a company called Pono, to be able to basically get spirometry. But for those of you in the general public, it's basically your oxygen and carbon dioxide using capacity, but it tells so much. It tells so much. And we brought it in as a baseline, as well as our dark field, which Dr. Cochran was talking about in one of our podcasts. Dark field analysis is one of the keystones that we use to be able to identify where your body is breaking down. This gives us cardiovascular health, neurological health. It gives us posture. And I even was like, how does it do posture? I always knew posture impacts breathing, but what are their algorithms and what are their data that they're gathering to be able to look at that? And sure enough, we can see a baseline that their posture is impacted now. How many of you out there are sitting on a regular basis? I find myself more and more sitting, doing a lot of CEO work for my business, marketing to a payroll to meetings and conversations of how we can tool stuff up. So yeah, I mean, that affects posture. So if you're not working on posture, we're going to see a decrease of that oxygen utilizing capacity. But that is, if you are a practitioner and you have not looked at that, it is something as a baseline that I've found beyond anything. That is a baseline predictor of potential disease states. But then also, if you're working, doctors, if you're working with people, and lay public, if you are wanting to improve your health game, this is one way to do it. You look at, for instance, cardiovascular health or posture or neurological health. You know where to target based on your carbon dioxide and oxygen utilization capacity. Dr. Cochran talked about LDH test was another great one, which we are looking at. But this, in my opinion, is going to supersede that, just because we can get a full look with dark field analysis and this PNOE, which is a VO2 analysis, we get to see Dr. Schellenberger talked about that peak, basically, where you have a peak oxygen using capacity and CO2 starts to come in. It gives us so much data. So we can do a resting test, or we can do an active test, which is about an 8-minute treadmill elevation of that heart rate, and see what that looks like. So there's so much data. It's super exciting. But then at the end of the day, you have this data. What do you do with it? Okay. And this is kind of leads into what I was going to talk about today. It kind of leads into um, a bit of this topic. But what do you do with this? And so, again, coming back to, and this is what a lot of the Nectar Blueprint was about, is building out processes and systems to be able to allow people to get two things: oxygen and nutrients. So a lot of times we got to get people out of their own way with processed foods, chemical foods, all those types of things. We have to bypass the gut and get nutrients in there to get their bodies back on track, and then lead them away, or lead yourself away, to be able to put all that stuff aside. All right. It's no doubt that it is an attack right now on the American public. And that attack is coming from two major corporations. Okay. Two major corporations. And they're both vying for your money, and they're both vying for your attention. Okay. So the food industry is not about manufacturing nutrients, it's about manufacturing foods or foodstuffs or genetically modified crap that tastes good and keeps you coming back. So if you look at a lot of stuff, it's all, look at a box of cereal. It's got a ton of marketing wrapped around that thing to try to get you to convert. Okay, try to get you to jump in and continue to buy that. And of course, if it tastes good, we hit the dopamine receptors, and that's where most people are like, I need more of that. And we get into this carb cycle. We get into this processed food regime that's blowing out metabolism. So again, we're testing this metabolism with VO2 max. We're testing your aerobic and anaerobic capacities. Essentially, how are you burning fat? How are you not burning fat? How are you processing these carbohydrates that you're taking in? Are you predominantly burning more carbohydrates, which keeps you in the cycle, or are you getting into a fat burning mode, which is a healthy? We know a lean, muscular body is a healthy way to go. So this is the new game. Just because the big pharma has now duped everybody into getting vaccines, and it's the biggest money grab that's been out there in my lifetime. I mean, we're talking about how many billions of dollars have shifted over just in the swing of COVID. And you look back at it, and yes, it was planned. So not to be conspiracy, not to be controversial, but we have to recognize these things. I heard Aaron Rodgers yesterday call them pharmacrats, and I loved it. Not to say conservative or Democrat, but the pharmacrats. I mean, it is just how this happened under a Democratic reign, to be able to shift billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars to Pfizer and Moderna and J&J without any hold harmless, meaning that, yes, make the recommendation. Everybody mandated take vaccine. Vaccine will actually keep you from getting COVID. No, it won't keep you from getting COVID. It won't keep you from spreading COVID, even though we told you all that type of stuff. And by the way, there's all these potential issues that are popping up on VAERS, which is Vaccine Incident Reporting System. But we're just going to ignore all that. We're going to just, because we have a contract with the government and it says the government will hold us harmless against any potential issues that come up with the vaccine ever. So what a good business model. I will make whatever I want to. You'll pay me what I asked for it. And then if it doesn't do what I say it's going to do, and in fact does the opposite, then I still win. I still get the money. So these pharmacrats, which we know that the D corporation is basically connected politically to be able to sway our government. So now we have bad government, we have bad medicine, and then we have bad nutrition, bad food industry. So we can blame all that on these corporations and point fingers with really no personal effect to it, meaning that we can't find a person that is in control of all of this. But then we also have to come back and say, who can control this? Now, doctor, as you are navigating all of this as well, isn't it not our jobs to open up alternative aspects of this thing. Is it not your job to teach on the aspects of nutrition and oxygenation of the body? Is it not your job to teach outside of the pharmaceutical world? Our medical doctor that we integrated with and is an integral part of what we do now talks about it. The healthiest thing you can do is just stay away from medicine and surgery by all means. Now, there are some life-saving procedures. Okay, but again, look at this this gal that reached out to me with this infection. Nobody is having any success, and so I don't know who her surgeon is. I wouldn't mind getting his name because he is actually looking outside the box, suggesting an ancient, I won't say ancient, it shouldn't be ancient, but an old remedy for infections in the body known as major autohemotherapy. And then I'm opening the door for ultraviolet blood irradiation. Okay, these are things that they used to use for septicemia. Septicemia, basically infection in the blood. And so somebody got really sick, we clean the blood. And we know this does this. So when the blood's oxygenated, right, bacteria tend to be anaerobic without oxygen. So we get oxygen in there. More oxygenated blood means more energy for healing, metabolism, all those types of things. UV light burns parasites, bacterial loads and viral loads as well, because they absorb more of the light than our cells do, 6 times the amount. So we know all this data. These things are there and evident, but it's been masked, if you will. It's been covered. It's been smoldered. It's got wet leaves on top of the fire. And natural healthcare has been buried by the absolute power, financial and political power of big pharma. So we get this. So the whole point of this podcast is expose both the general public and you, doctor, to the possibility of being able to serve people like it was designed and allow a body to heal. The Nectar Blueprint is just a way of providing therapies and understanding what doctors, these legends out there, have been doing for decades, but understanding how to integrate that and how to help people heal and lead them down a path. Okay. Now this leads us into a psalm. I woke up this morning. You know, I grew up in a very religious household. We were always jumping off to church, and I could say my mom was very spiritual. She struggled with religion. I know that for a fact. My dad is as well. Pops, if you're listening to this, but and it's conversations that he wouldn't hide from. We laugh about all the time because it is a struggle. It is a struggle. Spirituality is less than a struggle than religion is as well. Because I grew up and it was like, you know, the whole striving in your entire life was to get to green pastures and still water. Think about that. So this psalm popped in my head with a chuckle this morning because it's like, I will lead you to green pastures and still water. All right. So that is, and you're probably like, Doc, what does this have to do with health? We'll get there. We'll get there. Believe me, I can make some correlations to anything. You know, those of you that work with me on a regular basis, you know, I can connect the dots on pretty much anything. And it's a gift of mine, and I appreciate that about myself. But here's the deal. All right. We are constantly striving for green pastures and still water, right? That is the pitch on the Sunday morning pulpit of a priest or a pastor or whatever you, a leader, somebody trying to get you to Christ. If you are good, if you give away everything that you have, if you just tithe enough, you work enough, you will get to those green pastures and still waters. So this is just a deep root in our Christian, Catholic, otherwise upbringing. If you believe in this concept of that I have to work in order to get in good standing, and a lot of religions have that. That's what drives people to do what they do, one way or another. And I don't want to minimize as I record this podcast that Israel is probably obliterating Gaza right now, that strip, and the Palestinians. It's not war is brutal, and this religious war, so to speak, has been going on for quite some time. And so my point being is we can bite deep into these concepts and hold them dear and true to our hearts, and we create a reality with this. So doctors, a lot of the deep-rooted issues that people or patients and and those of you that are on here listening to try to elevate your health game, this is often the desire that we want to get to in our physicality, in our health, even in our spirituality, in our mindset, for mental health. We're always seeking this still water. Now, if you've ever been on the ocean and it's turned and is rougher than rougher than rougher, you're seeking still water. I mean, anybody that's been through that scenario. We used to fish a lot, and I still do go out on the ocean. We chase tuna and albacore and other things, and it's just my grandfather and my dad instilled that in my brother and I, and this is just what we love to do. It is a thrill to have a big old tuna on the other line. So we've gone to extremes to get that done. All right, we go on boats, rent boats, go on these types of things. But I remember one time my dad and I decided to go out of Central Coast. I'm trying to think. I'll think of it. One of the bays. It wasn't Monterey Bay, but just south of there. And there was a storm coming in, and the storm, and we knew it. And the captain, like literally, as we were going out, he just said, "Hey, this is gonna be a rough go at it, but the rewards will be there, okay? But this is gonna be a nasty go at it." He goes, "So I want everybody, to make sure that once." So typically these boats go out like, say, 10 or 11 o'clock at night. They run all night, 20, 30, 40 miles, and they find the fishing grounds, and you fish all day, and then you come back. Or if it's 2 days, you stay on the boat and fish the next day and then come back. But he just knew the storm and was looking at this. He's like, we'll be fine. The boat's going to be fine, but it's not going to be fun. So once everybody's in bed, the doors stay locked. We'll set alarms because we don't want anybody on the deck because it's going to be rough. You could fall over and we lose you. So this was the concept. So we knew rough waters were coming. And I remember like in the bunk hanging on, just getting rocked and side to side to side to side to side. And I have a pretty strong gut. I think I got sick enough as a kid on the ocean that I don't anymore. But man, it was rough. And there was 2 5-gallon buckets sliding back and forth in the center. If you imagine the two rows of bunks, on either side of the boat, on the port side and starboard side, and these buckets, and people were just grabbing and throwing up. So it's the roughest waters that I can remember being in ever. And it was just you desired for either the boat to stop, you desired for the waters to lay down because it was just miserable. But when the sun came out, the storm finally kind of broke. We were in the fishing grounds, and there was only just a few of us that could make it up to the deck and fish. But I will tell you, the fishing was phenomenal. I want to say that we put over 380, it's just 384. It was a number that stood out for me, 384 albacore on the boat for like 25 people. And I know there's limits of that, so you could fact check me. Maybe it was 284. I can't remember, but it was a lot of albacore. And I just remember catching them. It was so much fun. But in the journey to get there, I was constantly fighting what we were going through. Like, I don't want to be here. This is miserable. This is horrible. And again, what does this have to do with health? Well, I think in our mindset, we have this idea that we're always supposed to be in green pastures and still water. Because it's like a biblical verse, right? It's something that we got taught in Sunday school. It's just like that's our desires to get there. And if we're not there, we must be disconnected, meaning that maybe we're not doing enough, maybe we're not good enough, maybe we haven't given enough, we haven't done all these types of things. And so we come back to, I call it Catholic guilt. It is, that's my wife's term, all right, because in order to get you to do something, we have to guilt you into doing it, meaning that, life is tough right now. You're going through this because, fill in the blank. And most people in America have is just like, yeah, God's mad at me, or I didn't do enough. And all of these things start to ensue in our minds. But how does this relate to our overall health? So you guys that are trying to elevate your health game, you're trying to get out of a situation oftentimes meaning it's my metabolic issues. I may be carrying a little extra fat. Maybe I have some blood biomarkers that are not good. And I want to get out of that as quickly as I can to get to the green pastures, which is like a perfect body, right? Rocking a six pack, maybe lean, muscular. Maybe that's your desire. Constantly tooling your nutrition, constantly tooling your maybe peptides. You're in the peptide world. Maybe you're using some vitamins and minerals and some supplements to get to a healthier state. And then we constantly wake up and our body is constantly fighting off different issues throughout the day. Now, think of it. Our bodies are bombarded with chemical, physical, and emotional stressors every single day. So, does that green pastures really ever exist? Well, I think it exists in the aspects of what we make of it and what we focus on. So and then I use this other example, and doctors, I'll bring this home with what we call a Herxheimer reaction or a health crisis. All right, we'll talk about that as well. But we bring this home from the aspect of, is working out, exercising comfortable? Do we feel like we're in green pastures? And besides still water when we're doing that? Often no. I would say often no. All right. Now, some of you would argue is like, oh, I love the high of it. But nobody's just like, oh, this is so comfortable as you're, trying to curl that 25th rep of 125 pounds. That'd be pretty good. I'm like 65, 75, 85, 25 reps. Got it. Okay. But that 20 to 25 reps is one of the most uncomfortable states. But you have to realize where I'm going with this is, in order for you to get to where you really desire to be, you have to push your body past the point of where it's at. So if you desire to be better, if you desire to be healthier, if you desire to get out of sickness, if you desire to get out of disease, if you desire to get out of your low energy state, you have to do things that are uncomfortable, that are not green pastures in still water. And doctors, I feel like we've done a disservice to people that they're always supposed to feel good. Oftentimes on this health journey is not feeling the best. There'll be times, but I don't think we celebrate the sickness enough. I don't think we celebrate the body's expression of symptoms enough. I don't think we celebrate what the body may be going through and how brilliant it is. You may be going, well, gosh, doc, isn't it our job to make people feel better? Our job is to lead people and help them understand and educate them down the path of understanding how the body works. So doctor or healthcare practitioner, you know this at a deeper level, one of the deepest levels that anybody could. This is why our medical doctor shakes his head all the time, because we're turning out now. He was mentioning paramedicine. He's like, it's not that paramedics or advanced EMTs can't study, can't learn, can't understand all these types of things, but you're somehow going to take and this is speaking for him, but for me as well, you're going to somehow take my 8 years of medical training, another 4 years of residency, and say it's the same. Well, what's the difference? It's the journey. It's the expertise. You can't just say somebody can jump in and have the knowledge and be able to decision make in somebody's health when they haven't had the experience. And that's his point. And I agree with him. I look 20 years ago, the chiropractor that I was compared to the chiropractor I am today. It's not fair. Probably not fair to a lot of patients. Hey, doc, can I have my money back? No, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. I did the best with what I had, the best with what I knew, but it was why we call it practice, maybe. It's horrible. But there was a lot of people that didn't come to me until I had that experience. It wasn't the confidence wasn't there. They could tell. And so the point being is that we've done a disservice to patients to try to rob them from this journey. How could you take the journey away from somebody? Even if you could, like, I'll walk down that journey for you. And this is a lot of what medicine does, is robs you from the journey. You public that are listening to this, think about that. I'll say it again. Medicine robs you from the journey. It literally keeps your body from going through the process. This has been my cry on vaccines from day one, was that it robs the body from the journey. It does not allow the body to create 100% immunity to whatever virulent strain it may be. It doesn't. And we knew this with chickenpox and measles, that just let the body go through it and it'll never get it again, which was true. You get lifelong immunity. Vaccine, you get a little bit of immunity. But then you got to get boosters because of that. And, again, coming into COVID, well, you get immunity. You take the vaccine and you won't get it again. Now we find out that the people that got the vaccine have gotten it 3, 4, 5 times and continue to get it. And they're sicker than those that didn't get the vaccine. Oh my gosh, I said vaccine on a podcast. I wonder if I'm going to get banned. But again, here's the concept. We're robbing the body from the journey. And where in your life right now are you robbing yourself from that journey? Versus actually embracing the suck and going through it. My kids probably, I don't know, I'll probably be reported one of these days. My oldest gets it. He jokes with me about it. I'll report you to social services. It's fine. That's fine. Take you away. Save me some money. Save me some money and time. And we joke about it. How could you ever say that about your kids? You joke about it. But I used to let them suffer through things. It was horrible. If you looked at it from an outside, why are you not giving your kid Tylenol for his fever? Because the fever is boiling off the very infection that he may have. And why would I stop the process of boiling that off? Does the body know better? Yes, it does. I believe it does. So why rob him of that journey of some immunity and some boiling off the virus and making him healthier? Is that comfortable to go through it? Absolutely. Be the equivalent of shooting up with steroids, giving him a bunch of steroids to make him strong so he can perform athletically without him going through the process of actually working out and exercising to earn that. Multiple times my kids are throwing up in the toilet when they're young. I remember this. I'm like, oh, man, that's miserable, isn't it? Oh, Dad, make it go away, make it go away. I was like, kiddo, if I could take it, I still wouldn't. You know why? Because there's something in your system right now that could poison you and kill you. And your body's got this brilliance to get it out, to throw it up. So although this journey right now is absolutely miserable, it's absolutely necessary. How could and why would I ever rob you from that? So doctors, where are you robbing your clientele from this journey? Where are you taking on the treatment, the power, putting yourself on this tower that you will do the work, you will do the curing, and get them to green pastures and still water, and robbing them of that journey? It's not a healthy thing to do. Not at all. And then the last part of this, the last part of this goes for all of us in general. We have to understand that the green pastures and still waters is a rarity. I once heard Jordan Peterson talk about how those moments that we all strive for, which is like, on the beach, watching the kids play in the water, those times of bliss are actually the times of rarity. For some, it may happen a couple times in their lifetime that we have those arenas. What's the rest? It's the grind. It is the grind of day-to-day work. Those times when you connect with your significant other and it's absolute bliss. Those are the rarity. Okay. And it's not that you can't be healthy and in these green pastures and still waters for long periods of time. And the body actually seeks this. Think about this. It does. There's something called homeostasis, right? Doctors, you know this. Homeostasis is just a balance. Your body seeks a balance. You take like intercellular and extracellular water, it seeks balance. There's something called osmosis. The things will flow from a lesser concentration, a greater concentration to a lesser concentration. It's balance. It's seeking homeostasis. You're dehydrated. You put some salts in your body. Your body uses those salts to balance some things out. Get more water inside the cell where it's supposed to be and not having those poofy ankles. Your temperature is constantly seeking balance. Constantly seeking balance. Your digestive system's constantly seeking balance. It's a balance of stomach acids to food ratios and all these types of things. But it's never really in a green pasture. There's never like, we made it. Now, at rest, you would think, oh, well, I get to rest. I lay down on green pasture and sleep. At rest, the body goes into a higher gear for repairing. Your immune system's working. You see all these things are going on. So we take advantage of this and think that there's ever a time that we've actually are healthy. And it's the same thing of trying to get to green pastures in still water. I laugh at the fact because anybody that's hunted still water, and I'm a big hunter, I love eating organic elk and deer, so I hunt for it. What do? I go buy still water because that is where they come to drink, but it's also where all the predators live. Think about that. And if you ever see any animal coming into water, they'll oftentimes, like deer will often sit there for half hour, 45 minutes, just watching. Right? Where's the mountain lion? I want to see. Because they've had this experience that times before they go in the water and Joe gets taken off by a mountain lion. It's like, dang, we just lost Joe. All we're trying to do is get a drink of water. There's a green pasture and still water. And it took him out. It's the danger zone. It really is. Think about that on your body. If you are seeking this spot where everything is just perfect, it's also where the body starts to degenerate and degrade and create more issues. No, I'm not saying that you can't celebrate like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling wonderful today. I got good energy. I have no brain fog. I got mental clarity. My stomach doesn't hurt. My joints feel good. That's awesome. How long is this going to last? We keep doing the things that you need to do, and hopefully it'll last for a long time. But the body is designed just like a Ferrari to be taken out for a spin. And if you're living life, you're going to stir stuff up. Right? I feel so good. Maybe I'm going to take on CrossFit. I always wanted to do CrossFit. And you go to CrossFit and start tearing joints up and, tendons and connective tissue starts breaking down. And you go through a healing crisis. Like, what's going on? I'm worn out. I don't feel good. I overdid this. But that's human nature. And it's good. So my concept for today for you to kind of embrace is stop trying to deny the journey. Because it's where we learn. And the immune system is a beautiful example of this. You will allow the immune system to go through and imprint a virus when a kid's young, and it gets to the green pastures and still water later and better than anything else. But you have to let it go through this process. You rob it from that journey, it's got to do it again. It really does. It's got to do it again. Again, natural health practitioners know this. We educate people all the time on parents all the time on ear infections. I don't know how many rounds of antibiotics. I don't remember ever taking an antibiotic on a kid. I'd have to ask my dad now. And then I don't know, remember your mom probably took that stuff. That's probably what I get in response. And that's okay. But I just remember my ears aching all the time. And I do remember like having little remedies, warm oil, warm compresses, trying everything. But I also know my gut was torn up. So I just do remember that there had to be some antibiotics. Well, we know now that the antibiotics rob the body of going through that process. And the main cause of future ear infections is the antibiotics that the doctor prescribes. Specifically, Journal of American Medical Association. Look it up. Literally, put it out there. American Pediatric Association has said, hey, I based on this research, the best thing that we could do on an ear infection is let it go for 10 days. I don't know why 10 days. And then if it doesn't resolve, then give the antibiotics. But don't give the antibiotics day one. There's still some pediatricians that don't know this. But natural healthcare practitioners will say, yeah, let that thing go. Let that thing go. Because there's less likely of a chance of ever coming back again. Now let's support the body. Chiropractors, we adjust. We balance the sympathetic nervous system. Okay, sympathetic, parasympathetic, and we adjust and make sure that the nervous system is comfortable, body's comfortable, not to try to cure anything, change anything, do anything more than just put the body at ease so that it can do what it needs to do, so it can start to heal. And there are mechanisms I could tell you about with chiropractors and an adjustment of the cervical spine and how it actually helps the little narrow eustachian tubes drain and all these types of things. But bottom line, that's up to the body. Put it in a position, and it's way better than a Tylenol antibiotic kind of combo. But here's the point, and I've had parents call me, doc, it's just like, yeah, since the adjustment, fever's gone through the roof. You caused a fever. It's an adjustment. And I said, it caused nothing. I didn't cause the body to not have a fever. Didn't cause the body to have a fever. The body's doing what's, we removed some interference maybe. And so it's good. So I got to a point later in my practice years to start to talk about the fact that like, hey, the adjustment, it may do this. What? Yeah. The adjustment will take this away, and then the body may go through a fever. So everything that we do today might seem like it's worse. The body might just go through this massive crisis, but that's okay. And they're like, really? It's okay? How high are you willing to let the fever go? What? How high is too high, doc? And we go through it. Ultimately, how high are you comfortable with? And then I break it down. I go, overall, death happens around 108. Tissue damage 106. So are we okay at a 104? Should be fine. Are there things that we can do, cool them down, all these types of things? Yeah. Okay, but we're not robbing that little body of the journey that makes it so miserable again. Like rolling them all the way down the mountain that they have to climb through all the shale rock again and do that hike again to get to that peak again. Nope. We allow them to struggle up and get to that peak. Take a deep breath and then do it again. But as we are healthcare practitioners, our job's to learn people up on that. And I mentioned a Herxheimer reaction. Like in IV nutrition, sometimes we get a die off of parasites, viruses, and bacteria. The body is just like, cool, I got nutrients. Let's go to work. We've been waiting for this, like Christmas Day. Oh, my God, look at all the vitamin C in here. Let's get to work. We can utilize this for this. And we got oxygen. There's molecules that we're donating all over the place, and let's get to work. And then people get the IV. I'm like, I didn't feel good afterwards. I want my money back. It's like, no. This was not about feeling good in the moment, but getting your body to a different level so that it could actually function and thrive. And sure enough, the next day, people are, oh my God, I feel amazing. Okay, well, there's the green pastures, but you had to go through the journey, the health crisis, as some call it. But again, in medicine, we've robbed that journey. Oh, you're hurt? Here's a pain medication. Versus like, okay, my knee joint's killing me. Well, what am I doing to cause that joint to hurt that much? What am I doing to destroy that joint right now? Maybe I need to listen to my body, listen to the pain instead of numbing it out. Okay. And medical doctors, if you listen to this, you've had this conversation. It's like, okay, I will give you the steroid shot, but you got to modify what you're doing because you won't feel the pain and you can cause more damage. And down the road, you're going to need more. And, you might cause irreversible damage that eventually, stuff has to get cut on and cut out and all these types of things. So be careful of steroids. It's because we're robbing the journey. A better process would be prolozone. Procaine breaks down to amines and other things for building blocks in that joint, repair that joint, reduce the inflammation, reset the nerve, not block the pain, and then do some modifications. Okay, what are you doing? Well, I was running eight miles a day, and okay, can we back off for a little while? Give the body a chance to heal. Lay down in the damn green pasture right now and don't do anything. That's the point. You need to modify. Lay down for a second, there'll be another journey. Okay, take a deep breath. Get ready and go again. But allowing the journey to be their journey. And doctor, like you could ever take it on. Even if you desired to, how heavy would that be? Right? You'd be like, yeah, that's silly. I would never do that. But indirectly by your treatments, allowing people to think that you have a cure versus them understanding that their body is going to work through a process. And in this process, albeit the journey, there's a beautiful gift at the end. What's that beautiful gift? Maybe it's a decade more of living, a decade more of enjoying their grandkids, a decade more of traveling, a decade more of these green pastures and still water. But those green pastures and still water are just not granted, and they're not all the time. The body is in a constant crux, and to allow people to believe the fact that they can actually arrive in health is one of the biggest travesties in healthcare today. Think about that. We never arrive at health. Maybe death is the arrival. Maybe death is one of the healthiest things that we can experience. Don't know. I've never done it. But I will. We all will. But while we're breathing and our heart is beating, it is a constant fight. It is a constant battle between above sickness, above symptoms, to into symptoms, into sickness. And there are ways that you can battle these things. Okay. And as healthy as I am and I purport to be, there's times we dip. Okay. We don't have all the systems going all the time. There's a mindset that creeps in. I'm like, now wears my body down, breaks my body down. Maybe I work out too hard. Maybe I had a rough weekend and I didn't eat so well. A couple libations. Okay. And we throw it to the wind and the body's got to repair from it. So we can have states of being unhealthy and then states of being healthy. But there's never that arrival of that green pasture that we're always going to stay there. And again, why would we? Because the mountain lion comes out and gets us. Think about this. How many people have died of a heart attack when they hit retirement? It's astounding, the statistics. When people stop working, when people stop being active, when people stop doing certain things, the body just, boom, it's done. And I don't know how many stories we have clinically where people are like, man, if I knew retirement was going to be like this, I would have, what? Changed your job, done something different, taken better care of yourself. We hear these all the time. These are just constant stories that people talk about. But on the flip side, why don't we ask that question right now? Okay, why don't we have the conversation, doctors, with the patients of like, what if you were to change what you do? Would that make some sense? Yeah, I don't know if I can make the same money. Yeah, but what if you spent the rest of your life after work in doctor's visits, having joints cut out, having things repaired, in constant pain and sickness? If you could change that now, if there would be some things that you could do right now that would help you avoid that, would that be a conversation that you're open to having? And most of the time, they're like, well, yeah, but what can I do? Well, let's get some baseline. Let's do some dark field analysis. We'll look at your blood. We'll look at your VO2 max and see where your body's breaking down. There's even new scans out there. We can look for things. All right, be able to identify things before it gets that bad. First sign of heart disease, a heart attack. Often the first time sign of cancer. It's too late. We know these things. And we've done a miserable job of educating people. In public, you're not exempt from this. If you're listening to this, we've bought into this. You've grabbed the Cheeto or the Dorito. Man, that's good. What do you think the food manufacturer is going to do? We're going to make one more bag and have it on the shelf for next time. We feed into it. Okay, we pop the Excedrin because it's the migraine medicine and we just don't want to deal with it today. Versus like, maybe I'm dehydrated. Maybe I need to get some salts. Maybe I need to go a different direction. Do you see this balance? But fundamentally, when we see that the pharmacrats have taken over healthcare, literally taken over healthcare, we have to fundamentally make some changes. And is mostly driven by you, public, those that desire to be healthier, desire to not feel sick, desire to not have these symptoms, desire the green pastures, but you got to work for it. And you have to embrace the suck, which is the journey. The journey is more the normal. Journeys is where you're going to spend most of the time. So you better figure out a way to deal with it. And doctors, you better figure out a way to lead people through it. Because I can lead people to green pastures and still water. Okay? And no, don't hammer me on this. Only comments I usually get are like, rah, rah, rah. I'm not God. I'm not Jesus leading you to green pastures. But I can show you a way. I literally can. To feel better, to be better, to operate better, to all your systems functioning better. And that's the green pasture. Okay? But once you get there, we're going to have to go again. It is. Be like, okay, drink some water, take a 10-minute nap, now let's get up and let's do it again. We got to go. Why? Because there's a mountain lion waiting for you to get you. We just got to go again because it doesn't stop. Tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up and you're going to do something again. This may be a good lesson for doctors as well. You're going to get up and you're opening your mouth and putting stuff in that's going to lead you towards green pastures or it's going to lead you to hell. Literally in the aspects of like joint inflammation and pain and degeneration and sickness and eventually disease. So you get to choose which journey. You choose your hard. Do we not? You get to choose your hard. But in natural healthcare, we choose the hard now. We choose the hard daily. You choose the hard in the moment. And then you start to embrace the hard as the normal. The hard is where it all exists. That's the essence of life. Choose your hard. Oftentimes my team makes fun of me. They were like, oh, do you need lunch, doc? No, I got it. Appreciate it. They're like, oh, just eating chicken again? Like, yeah, it's my protein shot. Okay, good chicken, organic, antibiotic, free, hormone free. Little birds that run around and grub on whatever they want to. Okay, but I know that actually serves me better than getting some processed food, chemical food, some Cisco-laden restaurant. All right, is it hard? Yeah, because it doesn't taste as good sometimes. But again, I look at my heart as like, this is just fuel for me today. It's just fuel for me today. So I want to make that shift. I wake up in the morning and oftentimes I'm like, get that headphones on and get some music on. I don't want to work out today, but I choose my heart. All right, the 25th rep. All right, why 25? Because I grew up in a world that told me that reps usually only went to 10, 8 to 10. Man, that was a lot. You want strength, it's 4 to 6. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't serve me. There's hardly anything throughout my day that I do 4 reps of. If I'm walking, I'm doing hundreds of reps. So why not push it? And I find the suck at that 23, 24, 25. But it pushes me more than I was the day before. We get this. And so part of doctor being a legend in healthcare is going the opposite direction of what people know. And it's hard. There's going to be some people that don't agree with you, people that question you, people that turn you into state boards, things like that, because of the direction that you decided to go and lead them. Okay? People don't get it. They bite and they fight when it's not in their norm. Same thing. In this religion, some of you, this has stirred up your gut on the whole religious aspects of like, well, I thought like being close to Jesus was green pastures and still water. Hundreds of other verses like, hey, let's go. It's time to fight. You need to stand up. And the body is no different. You got to take it through the depths to get to the heights. It just has to. But those heights are beautiful when you're there. They're beautiful when you're there. On top of a peak with fresh air, amazing sights, and seeing the things that you are. It's the way it'll be for you. It's the way you'll feel. But you got to do the grind to get there. Pretty cool. And so part of this podcast is bringing some of that grind. Just exposing you to different avenues that when you implement these things, they're just tried and true methods. Like I said, an infection, where are my kids going to go? When they're not feeling good, they go to IV nutrition, oxygenation, major autohemotherapy, and then adjustment. It's beautiful. It's not comfortable. I don't know how many times my kids have lied on the table. And like, oh, I don't want to do this. I know. Oh, I don't want a needle in my arm. I know. But part of your journey is my kids run around in sports and they don't have a lot of good options on food and all that type of stuff. So we chose to kick the hard down the road and then have to pay the piper. It's a true concept. We dig ourselves in a pit. We're going to have to pay the piper eventually. All right? Which means that it comes due. Comes due in symptoms and sickness and not feeling good. But isn't that the motivation that a lot of people use too? Okay? In the fire, I'll make some changes. I don't desire to be here anymore. This is uncomfortable. This is painful. This is nasty. This is miserable. I'm tired of feeling this way all the time, every day. So if you could make some changes, let's start today. For the Nectar Podcast, Lessons with Legends. We're going to keep a schedule going. A ton of great information. For you doctors, lead your patients down to the path towards the still waters, but help them embrace the journey towards it. That's our job to do. Is that the journey is the essence where you learn, where your body starts to thrive, where it gets what it's needed, it builds what it has to. And then those times in the pasture, once you get up to that peak and you're down into that green pasture where you can take a sip of water, retool, redesign, and go again. Don't stay there long. And lead them down that path. And peoples, if you're going through a health journey right now, embrace the fact that it's not always perfect. And I'm telling you this because you need to hear it. I think we've done a travesty, a disservice is travestied in healthcare, thinking that it's easy and it should always feel perfect and good. You can take some oxys and it feels good for a little while. Okay, but we all know the end result of that. It's not always perfect. Okay, just like the airbrushed bodies that you see, those took a lot of work, but some of it's not even real. So we have to set clear expectations. What's our goals? What's our desires? Is it to have the six-pack abs or be healthy? Not that a six-pack ab isn't healthy. We know that a lean, muscular body is healthy. I've said that time and time again. But again, doctors, help people define these wins. What would a win look like for you in health? Well, to feel good. Well, you could feel good and still be sick. You could feel good and have some disease process going on. Okay? So maybe we dive into and look at and see where the body is with that disease process and to help you dig out of that pit. And there's going to be a health crisis with it. It's not going to feel good. I don't know how many times I've gotten people on like concentrated green drink and they're like, sit on the toilet all day. Never taking those things again. Come on. This is the first time your body's had some good nutrients and you're getting rid of a lot of shit, literally getting a lot of shit. Isn't it funny how we perceive these things? But we're going to keep dropping some amazing information, bring on some amazing doctors that can talk along these lines, that have been in the grind of natural healthcare. That's why I did it. That's why this podcast is here, to expose more and more people, more doctors, and what you could do, what you could bring, more people, general public, to understand these, because it has to be. We are bought and paid for in pharmaceuticals and healthcare in general by insurance companies, and pharmaceutical companies are running this. And it's not about you. It's about profits and hitting quarterly profits. You have to see that. So I no longer desire to play in that world. In my own health, and for the people that so choose to follow where I'm going. For the Nectar Blueprint, we will see you maybe on YouTube. If you're watching me on YouTube channel, the Nectar Blueprint, you will see me next week. On the podcast, you will hear me next week with yet another edition and some more lessons from legends.